Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you. Thank you. So, some information has come down from on high. We have the exam schedule now. Our final examination will be performed Thursday, December 12th at 8 a.m. We should go throw things at the registrar, right? So the rooms will be this series of rooms on the second floor of A Wing, 2, 11, 12, 19, 20, and 22. It's entirely probable you've written exams in these rooms before. We as the professoriate are still figuring out which sections are going to go in which rooms. So more details on which rooms specifically to come. But for the time being, you have your date and you have your time. And you have your general vicinity. Okay? Any questions? Any questions about the final in general terms? That's a comment.
That's a question.
Oh, yeah, that is it is a comment on the midterm, though.
What was the question?
The question is, can you make it easy? I will make it neither easy nor hard. It will be a middle-of-the-road test, the same as the midterm was. Firm, but fair. That's what I always shoot for. But, duration is 3 hours. The subject, like the material, it's not really useful to talk about what the material is at this point. You know, we'll get there when we get there, but it's cumulative. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. Ah, yes. It's also going to be pencil and paper. So, why is it pencil and paper?
I don't know.
Never trust the user. Never trust the client. That's why it's pen and paper.
Do we have a syntax sheet?
Oh, I'll see if I can get a better syntax sheet for you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is the exam like everything from the midterm till now, or is it everything?
It is everything. But functionally what that actually means is I reserve the right to put file IO on the exam because every other topic is fully integrated with the rest of the topics. You know?
So no file.
No, I say I am reserving the right
okay.
to test you on file IO. Yeah. But
Wait, no file.
yes, there's gonna be file IO. If I choose that there's gonna be file IO. Yes, that is on the plate. File IO, you must study file IO. Do not forget file IO. Yes. Cumulative. It's everything. All right. But the thing I was attempting to explain is there's basically nothing I can do if you don't know how to take post and get parameters, which was a major topic on the midterm. So that's, even if that weren't explicitly a topic for the final, it would have to be a topic anyways. You know? You gotta know, there's some stuff you gotta know, even if it's not this is what the test is about. So. Alright, cool? Alright. So today we are going to do a fairly long code example. This is a coding class where we are going to take all of the previous stuff that we've done over the last few weeks. We're going to integrate them into one big example. We are going to do a credentials validation system including databases and sessions. Okay? Sound good? Any questions? Any comments? Any philosophical questions? No? Okay. So, we will start off by giving you, the students, a choice. All right? There are two ways we could do this. We could do this as a sort of PHP classic application, which has a large number of small PHP files. Or we could do it in a more one-page app style, which will have one PHP script, but a lot of stuff going on inside of it.
Which one is better for the exam to study for?
Really?
I'm scared.
I will tell you when I write the exam.
I will say multiple.
Okay, how many people want to do the one-page app style application? How many people want to do the multiple PHP files style? Okay. I'm sorry, you were literally the only person who voted for one-page apps.
They were just scared.
That doesn't necessarily mean that you're wrong, though, right? That is the fallacy. There's a logical fallacy, like, what's it called? Bandwagon fallacy. Just because a bunch of people say something doesn't mean it's correct. But anyway, so let's make ourselves an application. So, if you could please, open up XAMPP and Notepad++ or VS Code. We will get underway. Good. So, the way that this application will work, essentially, we will have two PHP scripts that are actually web pages, right? These will be two views, right? We will have, as views, a login page, and we will have, the thing that's restricted access. Let's call it secret page .php. Okay. Now, we will also, we'll get there when we get there. Okay, this is good for now. So we want a login page and we want a secret page. We should only be able to access the secret page if we are logged in, and we should only be able to access the login page if we are not logged in, right? We will be using a session to keep track of all of these things. So, let us create a new PHP script called login page. File, save as, in your folder, login page.php. Oh, I will need to adjust my folder to this folder. There we go. Ba-boom! Login page.php. So, we know that we are going to use a session to manage our logins. So, what is the thing that we do at the top of a PHP file to invoke the session? Session starts. Very good. Say it as heroically as possible. There we go. So, our login page should contain a web form which targets a login script, right? If this were a one-page app solution, we would have a form targeting the same page that we were currently on. But because this is sort of web development classic, we are going to have a form with an action targeting login.php. Method, what should it be for a login?
Most.
Post is correct. Why?
Safe.
Safe is not true. What is it? What's the actual reason?
URL parameters?
It encrypts the payload. The payload is always encrypted, but host stores the parameters in the encrypted payload. So you can't just have somebody read your parameters just by having the packet pass through their network node. So, what?
Should I be getting errors if my form action in the form is inside the block?
Oh, yeah, actually,
Yeah, I was,
pardon me.
yeah, I was,
There we go.
I was confused for a sec. I'm like,
My bad. There we go. So inputs type is equal to text. Name is equal to user. Input type is equal to password. Name is equal to pass. I'll put some breaks in there. User, name, and password. There we go. And we will need a submit button. Input type is equal to submit. Value is equal to login. Just like so. So far, so good. We've done this a number of times so far, right? So now, we need to create login.php. File, new, save as login.php. There we go. This will also require access to the session. Session_start. There we go. So, in this case, we will have several actions performed by the server, several PHP scripts, all of them requiring a certain amount of common functionality. All of them will need, most of them will need to connect to the database. So it makes sense to take the code which connects to the database and put it into its own file. That way we can refer to it multiple times, not have to repeat it every time, right? In the same way that this is the preferred way of doing things with JavaScript and CSS, right? You externalize your CSS so that multiple pages can use it. The same is true for this database connection code, right? It also makes it so that if it needs to change, it only needs to change in one place. Make sense? All good? Sound good? Very good. So, let's require connect.php. Now, can anybody remind us of the difference between require and include?
Requires mandatory, includes optional.
Require is mandatory, include is optional. What were you going to say?
Require will throw an error if the file is not found, and include will only give you a warning.
Yes. And a couple of other pieces as well. That's a more precise definition. So require, all right, if the script that you are requiring is either not found or throws some other kind of error, then it kills the whole program. It kills the parent process. It kills the thing that was required, doing the requiring. However, with include, if an error is tripped during include, like a fatal error, the parent process will try to muscle on and keep going despite the adversity of the fact that the thing it included failed. So in our case, connect.php will be the thing that connects to the database. Can we log in without a connection to the database?
No.
Obviously not, right? Where are we storing our credentials? In the database. If we can't access the database, how do we verify credentials? We can't, right? So in this case, it makes a lot of sense to require the connection to the database. Make sense? Good. So let's make a new file. There's going to be a lot of files in this one. Connect.php. So here we want to create our connection to a PDO object. This is where we copy and paste in that piece of code from the notes. You have a question?
No, I was just gonna actually go back to the first one, but I can wait.
This one?
No, the first one.
This one?
Yeah.
So I'm just going to sneak into another folder where I have the same stuff. Here we go. There's the code right there. Copy that. Paste that into Connect. There we go. Now, the question then becomes, what of our database? Right? We haven't set a database up for this. So, let's now hop into phpMyAdmin. So that we can create the database. So, the way that you can get that, there are two ways. You can click admin, the admin button on MySQL and XAMPP, or you can go to localhost / phpMyAdmin. Those are the two ways to get there. Note, I am doing this on XAMPP. If you are attempting to connect to CS Unix to do this, you do not have sufficient permissions to create new databases.
Which button is it again, sorry?
It's this one. Question?
Yeah, you're saying there's a PHP admin directly for CS Unix?
Yes. In fact, you will need to use it for assignment 4 when time comes. If you go to csunix.mohawkcollege.ca /phpMyAdmin, there you go. It will require your login credentials to allow you access. That's because, this one's been secured a little bit further than XAMPP, which will just drop you into the interface immediately.
So our username, is that our student number? And
It's-
our password will be the default one?
So your username is SA, your student number, right? The same as your CS Unix username. Your password is contained in a plain text file in the home directory of your account on CS Unix. Good?
Yep, thank you.
Wonderful. So, let's create a new database. Let's call it not Twitter. There we go. Create a table, call it credentials. There we go. Like, the problem with saying like not X is that not X sounds a bit too much like something I would put in like an if statement, you know? So, like he literally named it after a variable name. Come on, and a common one too.
It's even worse once you type it into Google. It's like, or you know, I don't know which site I'm on right now.
Oh man. Oh, actually, I don't want this many columns. Let's see. Not Twitter. Yes, okay. Give me 3 columns, not 4. Credentials. There we go. Ba-boom. So I like to put an auto-incrementing index on things just because, you know, it's a useful thing to have. But technically, I don't think we're ever going to actually use it here. But create username and password. Username should be at least 32. Password, varchar. We are eventually going to be storing encryption. We're going to be storing hashes in this eventually. So give it a little elbow room. 128 or even 256 characters is probably good. And username should be, where are my constraints? Unique. There we go. Username should be unique. It should not be possible for you to create multiple accounts with the same username. Make sense? So far so good? Everybody good so far? Save. There we go. So let's give it, question?
So, where do we click when it pops up with add index?
Just click go. Just click continue. Don't make any modifications, just click
Okay.
continue. Let's see, can I get back to the previous? Nope, I don't think I can. Sorry, I can't get back to the previous page. What is the piece of information you need?
I was on the last row.
Oh, varchar. Name, password, give it 256 characters. Well, you have to enter a query. So, yeah, because that's like, that's the tab for I want to enter some manual SQL. So, in your SQL tab, let's give it a little bit of data to start off with. Inserts. There we go. Values. Let's say Mr. Krabs' password is money, because that's like my go-to.
Yeah, at the top you click this.
Yeah. I clicked on the SQL tab. This allows you to enter SQL queries, just like normal SQL queries, and it'll run them on the database. And what's a...
Zoom in a bit.
Oh yeah, I totally can. There we go.
Thank you.
There you go. What's an uncommon SpongeBob character?
Larry,
Larry.
the lobster.
Oh, Larry the Lobster,
That
yes.
is like my lad.
Larry the Lobster. His password would be, I don't know, observe. There we go.
Bo Rat.
He's also the kind of guy who would call himself by his species name. You know, I'm Larry the Lobster. There we go. All right.
Oh, I wasn't done.
That's well. You go to the SQL. This is your query. You know, enter some data.
What did you just say?
You just click go, and that executes the query.
It didn't have an ID, but I got rid of ID as only the option.
So we have a little bit of data in our database. It doesn't really matter what you have. It doesn't really matter if you only have one entry. So shall we continue?
Mine's not working, it's error.
I don't know why it's all for
I'm sorry. Actually, it was two for Missouri. You're actually
At the time.
halfway from the south.
So an interesting thing that it did with oh, do you have the table? No tables. Well.
I did create it. It disappeared.
Well.
I didn't.
Does it have to do with single quotes and double quotes?
But that would be the reason the SQL query failed.
Yeah. Well, what's the length that we put for user stuff?
Give it 256 for the password and 32 for the username.
Do we do single quotes for any of them?
So, if I I'm just gonna store that on the clipboard. I don't know why, but it seems to like backquotes. So, delete ID and insert into, like, put delete value 1 and change value 2 and 3 for things you want to enter. Duplicate entry 0 for primary. Did you set it up as auto increment? About one. Just properly. But try the, if we go to structure, attributes are empty and scroll. So, yeah. Oh, you clicked the wrong text. Auto increment.
And then make sure it's also
Auto increment. Right now.
Sir?
Yo.
So this at line 1, check the name of the court of your Maria BCS near credentials and whatnot. And I scroll up. Do you have any single quotes?
If I may, I don't know why this seems to be the case, but it seems to want tab and close.
This is.
Yeah.
just like
Back. Let's see if that works. But look, it's changed. Now it doesn't say this. So change all of those quotes to back quotes. So an issue that a lot of people are having with the database is it wishes for back quotes in specific areas. So if you auto-generate the blank insert, you'll notice that credentials, ID, username, and password are all in, like, they are quoted with back quotes rather than single or double quotes.
Do you mean tilde?
No, not tilde. It's the
It's the
it's
same.
the one below tilde.
It's the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
key. You
Yeah.
just don't press shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can probably exchange your quotes for back quotes manually. It might even be easier to just, generate the auto insert and then, chunk it forward. But incidentally, when we send queries to this database, it's gonna want back quotes as well once we connect with PHP. So,
Great design.
Yeah. Now it says unknown column, Mr. Privacy field.
Worked for me.
unknown column.
Why can't you send it wrong?
Oh, not those ones. Those are strings. It's like doing back quotes for columns and names of tables and like regular quotes for strings. It's very confusing. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
But
Make sure that he's in
there you go. And that works. See? That query worked. Right?
No, only.
The quoted string text is in string quotes. The column names and table name are in back quotes and are highlighted blue. So, okay, did everybody get some data in? Hopefully. Okay, so, now, basically, you take the name of your database and you drop it in where it says database name, not Twitter. Now, there's a certain amount of repeated code that we will have to use every time in order to grab to send the query, collect the data, and then return it. So why don't we take the opportunity to write a function that does that? All right. I'm going to call that DB, or I guess people have written down DH, so we'll keep that. So function query DB. We will need two things. We will need the query itself, and we will need the parameters that we are sending to the database. There's a lot of... Please stop talking so that people can hear me. Thank you. Query DB, we're writing a function that will handle sending the query to the database and receiving the values back from the database. So, the first thing that we need to do is deal with scoping rules. DH, our database handle object, this is declared in the global scope. Does anybody remember how you get a variable from the global scope into a local scope in Python? Yes, you type, that's not what I want. You type the keyword global, and then you specify the variable name. This will pull the variable from the global context instead of recreating it in the local context. So, now we wish to create a statement object, dh prepare our query. The next thing we do is execute the statement.
With parameters.
Statement arrow executes, passing it the parameters. Params, there we go. Success, or the success status of that operation is the return result. So, if success with an E, if success, then we want to return the fetched values.
Return the statement that we fetch all.
Yes. So return statement arrow fetch all DDO colon fetch a sock for associative. If this was not successful, we're going to do the typical PHP thing, and we're going to return false instead of raising an exception. Like we probably should. Looking good? So this is basically the database connection code that we've used a couple of times in class, generalized so that we've extracted the query and the parameters as inputs so we can put it in a function. Make sense? Any questions? Yes.
Wait, can you just run through what we're doing again from this blank statement?
Starting from here.
Line 12.
Starting from line 12? Yes. So the database handle object has a method prepare. If we put an SQL query into it, that forms this thing which sends that query out to the database and receives the thing that the database sends back, right? So that is what's called a PDO statement object, right? So the statement is the thing that you actually execute when you are executing the query, right? So the next line is statement execute. We pass the parameters in to avoid getting nailed with an SQL injection attack, right? This is the only safe way to avoid SQL injection attack. The return result of the execute method is true or false based on whether this statement succeeded. That statement might fail if, for example, there is a syntax error in the query or something like that, right? Then, if this statement was successful, we return as our return value from this function the data, which we are fetching, all of the data which we are fetching with this statement. Make sense? Good. Any other questions? Okay. So, we haven't tested things in a bit. We should test things. So, let's go to our login script and query the simplest query that exists in SQL, which is select star from table name. Results is equal to, what do we call it, query DB. Select star from credentials, no parameters. If result does not equal false, echo JSON encode result. Else go. A problem occurred. Is it one R, two R's and one C, two C's and one R?
I think it's two C's.
Two C's and one R?
I think two C's and two R's.
No, that doesn't look right to me. But you're right. There's some language, like some words in the English language where the more you stare at them, the more you're like, is that really how that goes?
Like answer.
Yes. Or bizarre.
Yeah.
Notice that
I thought it was supposed to be
recently, has come on. I'm like, am I spelling this?
Are we not supposed to put true after results or even correct?
So, true after result.
After we echo JSON and code and then results, comma true.
No, that's the code.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So for JSON decode, that's the option that sets it to decode as an associative array. Encode does not have that parameter.
Okay.
Yeah. Question?
Couldn't you, you might have already said this and I just completely missed it, but couldn't you just like remove the exclamation mark equals false and it would still work the same? Or is that like something where like,
Oh,
That's if it was true.
I actually meant to do that. Pardon me. Thank you for catching that. So, ordinarily, you would be right. You could just say true, right?
I think it's because of like type like equality where like you can get null and it's the same as false.
Right. I think that if you,
No.
I'm not sure if like an empty list, which is what fetch all will return if it doesn't return anything, I'm not sure that tests us the same thing as false. It might. I can't remember. So, unfortunately, if you just say if results, you are engaging weak equality, not strong equality. So, yeah, thank you. I meant to use strong equality there. So, yes, question.
I don't know if I'm late to this, but you can use a function from another script.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So, this is how it works, right? This is what it's actually doing. When it hits line 3 here, it deletes line 3, and it inserts the entire contents of connect.php. Just plunks that right into your file.
But we have to do it
Require or include. Yeah, but that's what it does. That's what it actually does. So yes, any variables that are declared in there are in scope. Any functions that are declared in there are in scope. Good question. So
if we have variables that aren't in scope in any specific like PHP script, but we put them in a requirement or include in another script, then they're technically globals in any script that we include them in. If they're not, okay.
think of if you don't like the way of thinking about it of like copying and pasting text into other text files, think about it this way. When the server runs a PHP script, it runs one interpreter session. One interpreter session for everything. So when it encounters require this file, it goes and it feeds that file in its entirety into the interpreter before it returns here. Right? So it's one interpreter session, which means it's sharing all of its variables, it's sharing all of its declarations as well. Make sense? Good. Any other questions? Okay. So, let's see if this works. Login page.php. Login, Mr. Krabs. Password is money. Although it doesn't matter. Uh-oh.
Can't remember how much did you pay?
Not getting anything?
I didn't get that.
I got a fatal error.
Oh.
it printed my whole database,
Then you did it correctly. I might have misspelled credentials or something. Let me take a look. Credentials. No, it's actually just empty. Funny.
Did you click go on the SQL statement?
Maybe I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I spent so much time helping other people, I didn't take time to help myself. Oh, Mr. Krabs' password is
Oh. Oh, mine printed entirely. Larry.
Login. There we go. All right, it did work. Hooray!
Oh, HTML.
Mine didn't anchor.
Yes. So, database access works. Anybody have trouble with that?
Mine printed the whole entire table.
That's correct. That's what we're going for.
Okay.
We're just testing to make sure the connection works. Oh, show me your code for login. Oh, sorry, credentials. Or sorry.
Oh,
Oh,
Put something in the. No. I see what you meant.
no, that, I'm sorry, yes, that is a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is what I recommend.
Show me your code.
Credentials are supposed to be backwards. No, not tilde. Don't bullshit. Yeah, it's the tilde key, yeah, but then weird shit.
Wait, yeah.
Well, whatever else. Yeah, it's insert into credentials with the brackets.
Local hot.
No, just no.
Are you looking for the local hotness in your area?
Do backwards.
All right. Yes. You've been waiting.
ID, password, in that order. I just want to wait. I don't know. Space value. And then parentheses.
Yes.
One comma.
Yeah, we're just dumping the entire table of contents just to make just so that we have the connection and we know the connection works. Good. Did you figure it out? Oh yeah. It's also in the lecture notes. So, all right. Your attention, please. Thank you. So now we have established a connection to the database. The next thing we need to do is to pull out the particular entry in the database corresponding to the username. We need to reformulate our SQL query to be something a little more specific than just dumping the entire database, and perhaps not echo it to the screen. So, ha ha, hee hee, ho ho. Log in. So we want to select password. From credentials, where username is equal to question mark. Ooh, mysterious. Username and password are both coming from incoming post parameters, so let's grab those while we're at it. U is equal to filter input. This should be old hat for you folks by now. Input underscore post. User filter in U and P. Make sure that these names match what you gave in the HTML form. The username, as received from the client, it goes in the list of parameters that we send to query DB. Parameter. Oh, no, sorry, you for user. Now, we try that query, and you can see we get password is money, which is correct, for me at least, because I requested Mr. Krebs as the username. If you go back and put something that doesn't exist in, it gives you no password. So, basically, we can tell whether or not the username exists by the result containing data or being empty, right? So, let's get rid of that.
Mine gives the whole information for that.
What, sorry?
Mine gives the whole information for that specific.
For this SQL query, select password from credentials where username is equal
Oh,
to.
wait, I have this document.
Yeah. So, we now need to decide whether or not the user was found. So, if count of result is equal to 0, maybe even triple equals to 0, because 0 is a little bit of a tricky one, echo user name / password mismatch. Now, I'm being a little bit sneaky here. We know more specific information than that. We know specifically that the username was not found in the credentials database. But do we reveal that information?
No.
No, because we do not trust the user. We do not give them more information than they need, right? All they need to know is that login failed, basically. You could just say login failed, but saying username password mismatch is like, it's a little bit of misdirection, you know, because this is technically a lie, right? But yeah. So if count is not equal to 0, because we put the unique constraint on the username, with this query we know for a fact we will always either get 1 entry or 0 entries, right? So we know that if we get 1, it is the one we're looking for. So if result at element 0 at password is equal to the incoming password from the get parameter, we can echo login successful. There. And if the login is successful, we want to set some parameters inside of the session, as we did previously in class. Session at user is equal to you. Session at valid is equal to true. Just like that. So, having done just this much, it will be useful to attempt our login system. Okay? Sound good? So, let's go to our login page. If I provide the username and the password, I get login successful. If I have a username which is correct, but a password which is wrong, I get nothing, because I don't have a case for, I didn't put an else here. Else, basically echo the same thing. Username, password mismatch. There we go, username, password mismatch. And if we go back, enter a username that doesn't exist in the database. Login, still a username, password mismatch. Good! Things are working. Which one do you want to see? You want to see this one?
Oh no, I just said beautiful. I said beautiful.
Beautiful.
Word.
Code. I love code. So the next thing that we have to worry about, right? If we have successfully logged in, what should the user see?
Secret page?
The secret page. That's right. If the login attempt was unsuccessful, what should the user see?
The arrow page or the main page
You would kick them back out to the login page,
or the other way.
right? The outer page and the inner page, right? So,
They can move.
if session at valid, so if the valid variable is set to true, of course, in order for that to be the case, valid needs to be set, right? Otherwise, you're going to encounter an error. Session is that session valid, and is it true? The second one will not cause an access violation if it's not set because of short circuit evaluation. If this is all the case, then we want to show the secret page. Otherwise, we want to show the login page. You've used include statements to include libraries. Now check this one out. Include login page.php or include secret page.php. Oh. Question.
Is valid supposed to be somewhere on login page?
So this branch of the if statement executes if the password that we got from the database is the same as the password that was entered, right? We set two values in the session here. One is the username of the logged in user. The other is just a variable named valid, which we set to true if the login session has been validated.
So did we just create a valid?
We just created it. Well, we may have just created it, right? If login failed for any reason, valid will not be set in the session, so this guy will fail out on a false, which means this will never execute. And whole thing will be false, which means we will include login page rather than secret page. Cool? Any other questions? Okay. So, now, we should have the secret page. Let's make that next. Secret page.php. There we go. I know, it's another file. Oop, oh. There we go. Hey, that might be useful. Is that useful? No, it cuts the top off. Does it cut the top off? Yeah, it does.
You
But
can just do shift enter and just go start at the second.
or like nobody really cares to see the top of OpenPHP anyway. Is this useful?
No difference.
No difference?
I
Okay.
mean,
Alright. This way you actually know what file you're on, so that's probably useful. Yeah. Okay. Just exploring features. Session start. So if this is the secret page, there should be a secret. Here's a secret. Oh, this should be HTML. Here's a secret. Snake kills Dumbledore. Hey, come on, there's gotta be a statute of limitations on these. You know?
Yeah, I've never watched it. I
10
was planning
years,
to this weekend.
10 years, although personally I think it should be lowered to 5 years, given we had it.
Yeah.
I waited 10 years just to
Yeah,
start
if you
myself
didn't
this
catch up
weekend.
on movies over the pandemic, like, that, you had your opportunity, you know? So there's our secret. So let's see how it works. If we log in, oh, well that's interesting. Oh yeah, I've already got a valid session. Here, let me kill my cookie.
Why would you do that?
Because all cookies must die. No, cookies are delicious. What am I talking about? So if I do not have valid login, you'll notice I get kicked out. I reload the login page. If I do have valid credentials, log in, I get the secret. Now, we do get this notice. Notice, session start, a session has already been started, ignoring on line 2. So, PHP warns you if you already have the session, right? If you already have the session engaged. These are ugly and appear in HTML text if you're not doing, like return in the form of a JSON or something like that. So, let's fix this error, because we can fix it. Does anybody remember, I know we talked about this in class a million years ago, but does anybody remember the difference between require and require once? I mean, you can get a fair distance just from the name,
Yeah,
right?
has something to do with starting the session.
No, it's nothing to do with sessions particularly.
We're gonna only do the session for people.
So, if we take a look at, let's see, oh, yes,
Does it act anything like C or C++ with like header files where you have the fragment ones? Where it copies and pastes the stuff into the actual document, but it's already there. It'll only do it once.
it doesn't.
It doesn't act?
It is exactly like that.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Sorry, I was completing your sentence.
Okay.
Yes, no, it's exactly like that. So you've got variants on include and require, include once and require once. If you use require once, it means that it will keep track of the things that it has included or required, and it will, if you attempt to do it more than once, it'll stop you, and it won't produce an error either, it'll just stop you. So, the problem we have though is that we're not requiring anything to start our session. So let's make a PHP script. Another PHP file. PHP, there we go, session start, ba-boom! That's it, the entire thing. We'll call it session.php. Ha-ha!
They asked for it.
Yep.
I'm actually wondering how you do this all in one script, to be honest. This would have been, I think, a good. Because if we're gonna do just a bunch of session starts in the script, it'd be like, is that how that would work though? If we did this in one script, it would just be putting that all the way after.
No, if we were doing this, if we were doing the one-page app version, we would just have one session start at the top, and that would be it.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Actually,
We
that
wouldn't
makes
need
a lot more
to.
sense.
We wouldn't need to do it multiple times. Yeah. No, what we would need to do if we were doing the one-page app version, and you can, if you're interested in taking a look at the source code, take a look on the announcements feed on Canvas, because the one-page app version is up there right now. So if you're interested, go take a look. But basically, what you end up having to do is give the forms some way of distinguishing themselves, and then selecting between the different functions using like a switch case we did in that version. So like, we included a hidden input that says, this is targeting a login operation, this is targeting a register operation, and then that's picked up by the switch case. So, anyway, session start, session.php, everywhere you have session start, you replace it with require _ once session.php. Everywhere. Except for connect.php because it doesn't use it in the first place. Require once, there we go. And now, oops, I don't want Firefox, get out of here. The error goes away. Cool. Any questions? Shall we do a log out button?
Wait, so can you go back to what you said?
Everywhere you were using session start, replace it with require once session.php.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
no trouble. So, log out. Let's go to our secret page, add a little form, tiny little form. Form action equals logout.php.
Nice.
Doesn't have to have a method. By the way, if you don't specify the method, what is the default? It's get, that's correct. Input type is equal to submit, value is equal to log out. Boom. So, that's all well and good. Now we need the log out script. So what are we going to do?
Wait a second.
I'll give you 10.
I didn't even hear the question. Wait, what was the question?
What do we do next?
That's easy. You just get a button.
Yeah. What do we not have? What do we have? What are we going to get if we actually try to click that button?
You don't have a login button.
Yeah, we're going to get 404 not found. That's right. Why? We need to add
A logout script.
a logout script. That's
So
right.
when you show the connect PHP, I just want to make sure I have it right.
Boop.
Okay, good. I just was checking.
Question.
if I had the session.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
where's the method for the logout script?
The method?
Yeah. Like,
Oh, it doesn't need to have one. It's going to use get by default, but to log out, you don't. In our case, we don't actually have to send any parameters, right? So if there are no parameters, it doesn't matter if you're using get or post, right? So, create a new PHP script, that's right. Call it logout.php. Very good, very simple script. PHP. In order to mess with the session, you have to load the session. Require once session.php, session unset, and now if we log out, where should we be directed to?
A login.
The login page. Include login page.php. And that's all she wrote. Nice, simple little script, right? Let's test it. Oh. Log out, click. There we go. Now we're logged out and we're back to the login page. And if I enter invalid credentials, you'll see I'm still not actually logged in.
Do you show the stuff?
Yes. Here we go. This one?
Yeah.
So far, so good. So now, the thing that we need to do is we need to integrate hashing. We have functional logging in, we have functional logging out. The thing we now do is we strap in the security. We take our giant wrench and we do the giant bolt to screw that in and secure it firmly. All right. With an no. Actually, well,
Security document.
see, we have to do a registration now. So the thing about hashing, right? It is technically impossible for us to like spoof a hash, right? Like you can't just add a random hash to the database. You have to go through the proper methods to create one, right? So we need a registration script. So, is your brain hurting yet? No? Yes?
I'm not getting any data on my page.
Okay. But it seems like you're not ever logging.
It's like it's just one.
I would double check your credentials in your SQL database. Okay. Registration form in login page. In theory, we could make it so that the you had a separate registration page separate from the login page, but I'm too lazy. Let's just do it here. Quick. Copy. Paste. Targeting. Register.php. Value of the button should be register, but otherwise everything else remains the same. Right? But you should probably say something like register a new user. And this one should be login and existing user. By the way, have you noticed that like a thing on websites lately is like the register button will be really bright and attractive colors, and like the regular login button will be like almost grayed out?
Yeah, define where to log in.
Do you want to know why they do that? It's because like the overwhelming majority of people who visit your site are people who've never visited your site before, right? So if you're going to have to make a choice between your registration and your login as to what to emphasize, if you emphasize register, that's gonna, in theory, that grabs more attention from the new customer rather than the existing customer, right? And the new customer is the one you want in an online business,
Unless they broke.
Well, even if they're broke, you can still harvest their data,
True.
right? There's that old aphorism that if you're not paying for it, then you're the product, right? I mean, that still remains to be very true. That remains very true. So, register. Register.php. This script does not yet exist. So what are we going to do?
New script.
That's right, folks. A new PHP script. Register.php. Ba-boom. So fortunately, there's a lot of overlap between this one and login. So you can just copy the contents of login here. And we will basically, we won't worry about, registration will be separate from logging in, right? We won't log you in immediately upon registration. We'll go back to the login page. Our query becomes different, substantially different. So if we are registering a new user, what's database query? What's our SQL? What do we do? If we're trying to add something to the database. So, how much trouble did we have with insert queries when we were trying to do it with the SQL tab?
Lots.
Lots. So this is the way to do it. I'm going to sneeze. I might be going to sneeze.
Good cause.
Maybe not. Okay. So basically, my advice to you is to use the auto-generated insert query for this database, because it seems to be a bit nitpicky about back quotes. Cut. Paste. In my case, ID is auto-incrementing. I don't need to provide it. Values will of course be question mark, because we are allowing the PDO object to do its job and sanitize those parameters. We will provide username as U and password as P. There we go. Now, insert queries do not expect any results back, right? You don't get any rows out of the database when you're doing this from an insert query. So all of this code here, where we're looking at the count of the result, that's all bogus. That's nonsense. We delete it. Ah! We can actually go back to having a 2-line if statement. Echo new user registered. There we go. And look at that. Isn't that readable? Isn't that nice? Isn't that fun? Okay, maybe we could take the query and we could put it in an external, we could put it in a variable here and declare it outside. This line's a bit long, I will admit, but you gotta admire the fact that we're doing quite a bit of stuff here, and there's not one indentation. So, here is our registration script. Let's test it to see if it works. Going back to here, sign out. Register a new user. Snape. Password is I killed Dumbledore. No, it would be potion. For sure. Register. New user registered. Fantastic. If we browse the structure of the database, you will see we now have that data in the database. So, it works. So long as you well structure the query. So far, so good? Question? Okay. Oh, that means you've undersupplied the query with that'll do it. So we can add new entries to the database. But what we need to do now is we need to do the hashing part, right? So when we hash, we take the password that has been lovingly gifted to us by the client who is never to be trusted. Can I finish? Yeah. We take this password, we run it through password hash, and then we take the output of that and we store that in the database instead of just storing the password raw. Sound good? So, here we go. So here we are using P. Instead we want to use hash. Password underscore hash P. Then we provide hash to the database. Two small modifications, not that big a deal. Oh, yes. Oh, I always forget this. I'm sorry. Password hash requires two parameters. The second one is basically what hashing algorithm you want to use. It's kind of similar to like filter, sanitize, special chars. For like there are a few of these different things like bcrypt and a couple of others, but for our purposes, password underscore default is good enough for us. Let's go. You still So try go back to your try man every time you read, actually the fact that it's complaining about a duplicate entry probably means that that one succeeded. Ask Maria DB. Yes. You can delete the session and then so reload and it puts it back. Well, yeah, I mean, the session exists, but it's not validated, right? You have to log in, and then that validates the session, and then you can access the secret page. Yeah. I need to continue. I'm running out of time. I'm sorry. So, password hash. There we go. However, now that we have passed, okay, first let's see what one of these hashes that we've been talking about so much actually looks like, right? So let's save that, go back to our registration, register a new user. There we go. Felix's current favorite thing is spaghetti, so there you go. Registration successful. We go here, Reload. And there you have it, my friends. That is a hashed password.
You think I can guess that?
AP Horf. It's great, I love that.
Talking about pseudo randomness, does hash do pseudo randomness or no?
Yeah, so you can think of a hash function as a pseudo-random function with the seed value being the password that you put in. Question at the backside.
Yes, are all these files going to be available after today?
Most assuredly, yes.
Correct. Thank you.
Our version is actually slightly different from the version that from the class before this one, but it'll mostly be the same. If you want to see where this is going, it's currently in the announcements feed. So, hash. Here's the thing though, right? Once we have rewritten the login script to receive the hash, these values are no longer useful, they will not work, so you might as well get rid of them out of the database, right? They are occupying usernames. So just get rid of those. There we go. I will put a couple more pieces of Cordelia. Her favorite thing is crayons. Register. And Theodore, his current favorite thing is bananas. There we go. So there we go. All of my children are in the database. Good. So, we now turn our attention to the login script. So, the problem,
What did we just change? Sorry.
we added line 8,
Okay.
and we
Okay, good. I just thought you might add something else later.
all I did was I generated a few hashes and added them to the database.
Yeah. I just didn't know if I missed like this very slight modification.
Nope, not this time. So, in our login script, the problematic portion is this if statement. If result 0 password is equal to p. We no longer use equality to determine this. We use the PHP function password verify. The first argument is the plain text password. The second argument is the hashed password we are comparing it to. So, password underscore verify P, comma, that thing, close brace, save, and it's just that easy, folks. Shall we see if it works? Not yet?
Password verified. Yeah, we just changed that one line, right?
That's it.
Okay.
So let's go back. If I attempt to log in with invalid credentials, username password mismatch. If I attempt to log in with valid credentials, I log in.
Pause.
Yes. Take it back.
I'm just trying to think how it works.
So, do you guys want to do unregistration?
Would it, in that situation, would it be a good idea to like still leave the ID there solely so that, guess if something doesn't include.
I would love to do on registration, but may I have some help on it or?
Yeah, I'll take a moment to walk the room and fix people's problems.
Mine says on connect.php line 12, we go over here. I don't understand why this is here.
Maybe make a trigger for it, you know?
So the number of tokens is the number of question marks.
Oh, yeah.
The number of bound variables is the size of the array that you provide. Those two have to be the same. So go back to is this the registration script you're working on?
No, this is like that.
No, but is it for calling?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've got 3 question marks.
It's
But
because
you're providing 2 values.
it's because the first one is for ID.
Is ID auto incrementing?
I don't know.
Well, let's take a look at the database. No. It's a primary key, but it's not auto incrementing. So that's going to cause a bit of use. You just need it. Default, say default. Change, yes. Default, default code editor is this one.
Oh, yeah.
So now if you just leave ID off, because now 2 question marks.
Because you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between encrypted and
Larry.
because you could have a
I think it's because we did something other people
No, try refreshing.
Oh, you're
trying to get a hash value.
It does go in, but it tells you it has problems. See, fetch all, if it's a insert query, it'll return an empty array, which I believe will test is the same thing as false. No, reserve your anchor for the correct subject. PHP. It's not you. It's not the keyboard. It's PHP. Yeah.
Should be actually. I think I would do that. I'm gonna just delete
You get it working? Okay. Okie dokie. On registration?
No,
Shall we?
no.
No, you good?
Yes.
Users will always be users. Once created, you will never let them go. We have time, we can do a slightly fancy version of unregistration. Alright, so go to your secret page. Duplicate this form. Your password should be required if you're doing anything major to your account, such as deleting it. Type will be password. Value will be equal, name is equal to pass. input type will be submit. Submit! Destroy my account.
ID's null index is supposed to be primary, correct?
Sorry? Null index is supposed to be what?
ID's null index is supposed to be primary.
So,
Oh, sorry, is it just supposed to be index or primary? Or index, sorry, ID's index.
modify the table and take ID out.
Take ID out.
Just take it out.
Take it out. Okay. I'll just-
Don't need it. Causing more problems than we need.
I will do that.
Save. So, let's get logged in. Here we go. Oh. Oh man, I forgot the password.
You're registered.
You're registered.
Oh. Yeah, that'll put. Thank you. There we go. So, there we go. So now, this is still targeting logout. Unregistered.php. So what are we going to do? Another PHP script. Unregister.php.
Well, sorry, can you go back to that button now for a second?
Yeah, it was secret page.
Yeah, it works.
This is the form.
I just took out my. That's so sweet.
But isn't it kind of glorious in its stupidity?
There's already some stress.
Right, no performance. This one of people who give it all.
All right.
No, like your
May I move on?
I don't know.
So, PHP require once session.php. There we go. In order to unregister the user, do we need to connect to the database?
Yes.
Require connect.db. So, unregistering is similar to registering.
What's the difference between connect.php and connect.ruby?
Oh, a typo. It was a typo. Don't need that. Wait, yes I do. Oh, okay. So this is what we're gonna do. So the way that unregistration works here, I'm requiring them to enter the correct password in order to verify it's them, to allow them to unregister. So let's grab this piece of code from login, plop that in unregister. We are not taking username, but we are basically re-performing the login process. However, the username that we're going to use to query the database is, of course, found in the session. Aha! We did store it in there for a reason. So, there we go, there we go, there we go. Password verify. Yes, yes, yes. So, rather than logging in, we now need to perform some additional stuff that destroys the database entry that we just pulled. So, let's say that result 2 is equal to query database. Delete from credentials where username is equal to the passed parameter. If result 2 is triple equals false, echo failed to unregister. The internet never forgets.
Actually, it's starting to.
You think so?
Yeah, with all the stuff with like the internet archive and whatnot. What's happening with this stuff?
That's not also the Wayback Machine though, is it?
I'm not entirely sure.
Is it?
They have that.
Are they the same?
The Wayback Machine is going bye-bye as well?
I don't know,
I'm not
I don't know what's
sure.
going back.
I know
think it will.
part of
Mm. See, the thing about it is like, it's so useful, they won't be able to kill it because somebody else will just, someone else will reinvent it and that'll be it. You know?
Yeah, but there'll be like gaps in it's like many.
Yeah. Successful deregistration. There we go. So, shall we run this to see if it works? We do still have the room for another 5 minutes. So, if we enter our password again, destroy my account, click. Well, we're kicked back out to the login page at least. Let's see. Did that actually work? Nope. Okay, interesting.
How's that even possible? Oh wait, is it because it doesn't match the hash?
Oh! I forgot to include so if we have destroyed the user successfully, right? Then we should also unset the session to log out. Session unset. And we should also include the login page. Page.php. And probably terminate the script. If we've managed to get that far without terminating the script, we include the secret page. .php. There we go. So, am I logged out right now? I'm not convinced. Oh, I see. I think I see what happened. Okay. There we go. Enter the password to destroy the account. Username, password mismatch. What?
Yeah, is it because the password doesn't match the hashing thing on the database?
But we are using password verify. Right?
I'm gonna have to PHP document that.
Well, you can always echo the result. Echo JSON encode result. Go. Just to make sure. There we go. There's the password. That is probably the same as this one. Do we have a peepworth? We do have a peepworth. There we go. Username, password mismatch. bet I'm not using you. I've got. Let's see here.
So that password in front, credentials were
What is P? That's the question. Is it blank? Oh! Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Method should be post.
oh.
Looking for it in the get, or looking in post, it's not there. There we go.
Which file did we change, sorry?
That was in
secret page.
secretpage.php. Method should be post, not blank, which defaults to get. Because it was sending it over get, and I was trying to read it from post, it simply did not exist. So let's try her again. Come on. Successful deregistration. If we take a look at,
Fatal error.
So mine didn't work.
there we go.
Not found.
Well, looks like there's a whole gaggle of people that are gonna come in here at the earliest opportunity, so I'm going to quietly dismiss class right now. And yeah,
Yeah, mine just sends me. Wait, unread. What happened to my unread?
We'll get back to it. We'll get back to it. It's that link. Well, I don't know what's going on.
I don't really know.
it means that your SQL queries are bad.
Whoa. I copied yours. That's
Did you
not.
know? Did you copy it to the character?
I basically dragged my mouse from my laptop onto that screen, copied it, pasted it back into my laptop, and it works. Just not really.
All right.
It's so boring.